just when you're thinking you're, trying to work your way out of Hurricane Florence and Hurricane Michael, and you're focused on recovery and the work that's necessary for your home, just when you're doing that, no better time than to be told, oh, by the way, your home insurance may be going up considerably. And that will be the topic of discussion this afternoon as we begin the program here on Viewpoints on the talk station. If all goes well, we're going to have Willo Kelly, who is a regular on our program when it comes to insurance issues, joining us here in just a moment. She's the Chief Executive Officer of the Outer Banks Association of Realtors, and I'm looking forward to hearing her observations. But as we begin the program, I want to say to you, we are talking home insurance, and I guess possibly Windpool will be part of that. I'll find out from the details on that in just a few moments from Willo Kelly here on Viewpoints on the talk station FM 107 AM 1240. As always, as I remind you about the program, the numbers, if you'd like to join us, 252 area code 247-7282. That's 247-7282. And, of course, that toll-free number, 800-818-2255. Via email at Viewpoints with an S, viewpointsradio at hotmail.com. And via Facebook at Viewpoints on the talk station. And do want to thank our sponsors for the afternoon. Of course, the fine folks at Floyd's 1921 restaurant located at 4th and Bridges Street in beautiful uptown Morehead City, and Advanced Water Systems, the people that bring you Connecticut, folks that are, well, practically reinventing water. I'll get back to more with our sponsors here in just a few minutes, but I want to go straight to the program. We have joining us this afternoon, by the way, first we'll be talking with Willo Kelly, Chief Executive Officer of the Outer Banks Association of Realtors and Home Builders. Following that, we're going to be chatting with Jenny Beth Martin for a few minutes, related to the 10th anniversary, which was celebrated yesterday, of the, well, if you will, the founding of the Tea Party movement in this country. So you'll get the details on that here as well. And, of course, the second hour, very interesting conversation I had earlier today with Tom Arms of lookaheadnews.com and Look Ahead Radio from his home in London, England. All that more here on Viewpoints. But first, let's talk to Willo Kelly from the Outer Banks Association of Realtors and Home Builders about your home insurance. Willo, good afternoon. It's a never-ending story, but welcome.
Thank you again for having me, Lockwood. This is a never-ending story. It's just same story, different day.
It is. It's stunning. And what still bothers me significantly is the fact that there is no formal announcement of these rate hearings. They're just sort of casually released to the news media, and assuming that folks are just sort of always, it'll jump out and slap them upside the head. And the only thing that really jumps up and slaps them upside the head is when they get that new premium charge. So let's start with the whole aspect of home insurance and how the public is informed about price increases.
Well, Lockwood, you mean you didn't check the North Carolina Department of Insurance website on December 20th to see if there was a press release done and a release from the Department of Insurance informing the public that there was going to be possible rate increases of up to 30%?
This is historic. They do it on or around Christmas, don't they? Almost every year.
Thursday afternoon before Christmas, correct, which was I think Tuesday. This was a Thursday on December 20th is when the North Carolina Rate Bureau made the filing that day, and the North Carolina Department of Insurance then issued a press release that said that the Department of Insurance was seeking a 17.4% overall statewide average increase for homeowners, renters, and condominium rates.
December 20th. No, I had fallen down on that day, and I'm confident that many of the listeners to this program are probably sticking pins into that doll that looks like me saying, you bad person, you. No, I did not. And, the other aspect.
As I did not either. I am not that diligent to monitor the Department of Insurance website on a daily basis and check their press releases. I did not. Luckily, and fortunately, I do have a friend in the department that alerted me to the fact that this rate filing was going to happen.
Wow. So it's a matter of having friends in the right places in order to really know all this information. This is one of the things that really does disturb me. In the case of for example, the Department of Transportation planning to pave a road or build a new roadway through a community, they go to all the trouble of making public notices, formal notices, going out of the way to make sure that the public is informed. Now, an issue of home insurance, well, that only impacts a small percentage of the state's population. Tongue firmly planted in cheek on that. It is a little frustrating, and I am predetermining the flavor of this conversation because, Willo, you and I have talked about this on, 4 separate occasions here in the past 6 years, if I'm not mistaken.
We have been talking about this since 2009.
Okay.
It has been a long time, Lockwood.
9 years.
It has been a very long time. And like I said, same story, different day. The interesting thing is in this rate filing, and again, the press release that's done because there are so many territories across the state of which, rate is assigned by territory because you have to look at a group collectively of properties when it comes to rating those properties and what kind of loss experience they've had, what is the modeled risk on those properties, what is the potential just on average risk when it comes to fire liability, et cetera. And so across the state, there are these assigned territories by definition which align to particular counties. So they take the average of all of the rate increases and decreases that are within a rate filing from the North Carolina Rate Bureau, which acts as kind of one insurance company making this request. And then they come up with this average, overall statewide average increase. For us, however, on the coast and in eastern North Carolina, while the overall statewide average increase is 17.4%, we're looking at the Barrier Island portions of eastern North Carolina are looking at a 30% increase for their homeowners insurance rates and increase. And then in the, eastern areas of Brunswick, Carteret, New Hanover, even in the inland areas, it's 30%. In some areas of the western coastal areas of Brunswick, which is Territory 160 on their map, it's a 20% increase.
30. So, wait. Let me just reiterate that for the audience. And if anybody's listening, I just want to make mention of this. We have until February 26th, and I'll share the details with you. Well, actually, Willo will share the details with you on this one. What I want you to understand, if you're a homeowner, you are looking at a 30% increase in your premium. And by the way,
and this is based only on $200,000 worth of coverage. So it's $200,000 worth of coverage with a $1,000 deductible. You can negotiate with your insurance agent. If you have a higher deductible, perhaps your rate could be less. But for us, what it means is an almost $700 to $900 increase just on that amount of coverage annually.
And of course,
and forget about it if you have wind. If you have a separate wind policy, this will impact those wind-only policies as well. And my goodness, you have to pay the rate, then you are possibly surcharged on top of that rate, and you have to pay administrative costs if it's a wind-only policy. So you could be greatly impacted by this tremendous rate increase. And here's another kicker. In the rate filing, this is what has been filed because the Department of Insurance, the North Carolina Rate Bureau is being very generous in this filing because the very large document that is a rate filing includes over 2,500 pages of data, charts, graphs, testimony, this long formula of how they come up with the rate. And according to general statute, the rate for homeowners insurance should be adequate, right? It should be fair. It should not be excessive, and it should not be unfairly discriminatory. That is what the Department of Insurance has to keep in mind when they are looking at a rate filing. They need to ensure that the companies writing homeowner insurance in the state of North Carolina or condo or renters insurance are going to get a rate to stay in business and to have reasonable profit. And so they come up at the end of this long formula from all of this data and research, a rate. The rate actually that is indicated, the need for rate in the filing shows that in these barrier island portions of North Carolina, the rate should actually increase 94%. So the filing shows the need for a rate increase of 94% in the barrier island portions of North Carolina, the very eastern areas adjacent to the Atlantic Ocean. The filing says our rate should go up 94% to ensure adequacy, rates are reasonable, not excessive. And the Rate Bureau, in knowing that that would pretty much,
devastate
people, cause you not to be able to pay your mortgage anymore if your insurance is escrowed, that it would be devastating. And so to lessen that burden on the policyholder, they have generously capped the increases at 30%. Their increase request at 30%, I should say.
Our guest this afternoon, Willo Kelly, we've had her on numerous times before, and we're talking with her about a rate increase for homeowners insurance. This would also include fire. Am I correct on that?
A homeowner rate includes fire liability, and then it also includes wind.
Okay.
And incorporated in this filing is rates for those condo policies and also tenant policies. So if you're renting a home and you have a tenant renter's policy, you would be impacted by this as well. Thankfully, not to the extent of 30%.
Okay. And the other aspect of this, and we've chatted about this in the past, Willo, this going to that 94%, and there's a clause that sometimes is introduced in the policies.
Yeah, I know what you're going to say. Are you talking about consent to rate?
Consent to rate. And, folks, the insurance company says 30%, but you also have to sign the consent to rate. So next year, I'm automatically agreeing to a 45% or a 55% increase. Am I correct on that?
Well, you are correct to a point, because the General Assembly passed legislation last year, and with the Department of Insurance pushing for it, that you no longer have to sign a consent to rate form if your policy is escrowed through your mortgage company and payment is made. That constitutes consent. So you no longer have to sign that piece of paper, but you should be alerted that somewhere in your policy, in very large, bold font, print will say this is what the rate would be through the Department of Insurance and what they approved, and here's what we're charging you. So it is buyer beware. The policyholder needs to have due diligence in looking at their policy and reviewing their policy and looking for that, because your company can charge you up to 250%. 250%, you heard it, over and above what the Department of Insurance considers fair, not excessive, adequate, and not unfairly discriminatory, because it is a loophole that says if you need this to do business, here's what you can use. It used to be, it's still considered consent to rate. However, the policyholder no longer has to sign.
All right. Willo Kelly with us here for a few more minutes. I'm going to take a quick break, Willo. I want to come back. We're going to talk about what we need to do, what we can do relative to this announced rate increase, which to all the audience out there, and I'm kind of distressed that no one's called in and said, I was looking at it and saw it on December 21st and wondered, Lockwood, why weren't you making any big deal about that? I would like to know who out there was paying close attention to that. Obviously, I wasn't. Please call in, 252 area code 247-7282. That toll-free number, 800-818-2255. All right, we're looking at a proposed 30% increase for our communities, those of you who are listening to this program in the broadcast area, Carteret, Craven, Onslow, Pamlico, Jones counties. And you need to be aware of this. Stay with us. We're going to give you some information as to how to pursue maybe an adjustment on this proposed rate, 30%. You're listening to Viewpoints, and as always, a great pleasure to have with us this afternoon, Willo Kelly, and now the Chief Executive Officer, I love that title, CEO of the Outer Banks Association of Realtors and Home Builders. You're listening to Viewpoints. Viewpoints on the talk station. We have our guest for just about 5 more minutes here to talk about home insurance going up 30% for those of you living in Carteret County, Brunswick County, Onslow, Pamlico, and Pender counties. And I might add, and I may not be absolutely accurate, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little less, but let's just round it up to 30%. And we've got with us Willo Kelly, who is the CEO of the Outer Banks Association of Realtors. Willo, didn't we just have a rate increase a year or so ago?
Yes, we did, and those rates just went into effect October 1 of 2018.
And now they've all of a sudden said we need really a 94% increase, but we're going to be sensitive and more responsible and only increase it 30% for the coming year?
Yeah, what is unsettling about that is those rates have only been in effect 4.5 months. So if you have not gotten your renewal notice yet, you haven't even seen the impact of the most recent rate increases. And that's one of the talking points I would like to stress is that, we need to tell the Department of Insurance, hey, we need to hold back on this rate filing because new rates just went into effect, increases for us, and there has not been enough time to evaluate the adequacy of those rates.
All right, now, the rates that we're looking at, are these rates that being proposed right now a result of Hurricanes Florence and Michael?
Not at all. That's another problem. If we think this is reflective and we need 30% increase because of all the damage that was just done last year and the year before, no. This rate filing only reflects loss experience from 2012 through 2016.
All right. Okay, Willo Kelly with us, and I'm not going to keep her much longer. Willo, I said a few moments ago we have until February 26th to make our voices known, and the first question is, how do we go about doing it? And the second question is, do our voices play a role in the decision-making process with the insurance commissioner, Mike Causey?
The Department of Insurance will report on how many people have responded to this rate filing. Okay. And so, therefore, it is important that everyone send an email to 2018 Homeowners, HOMEOWNERS, plural, at ncdoi.gov, and you can make it as short and sweet as you'd like. Deny the rate filing. Commissioner Causey, we feel that these rates are excessive, unwarranted, and unjustified. The rate filing, et cetera, et cetera. First of all, we haven't adequately looked at the adequacy of the rates that just went into effect. The rate filing does not include any information on who is paying to consent to rates. What about these policy fees that are added to policies? Sometimes you look down at the bottom of your premium and there's a $75 additional charge for a policy fee. How is that factored into reasonable profit? That is not reflected in the filing. So we need to let Commissioner Causey know, the Department of Insurance know, at 2018 Homeowners at ncdoi.gov to please deny this rate filing. And if he does nothing, the rate filing becomes effective and new rates go into effect October 1 of this year.
All right, one more time. 2018 Homeowners at NCDOI, that's North Carolina Department of Insurance, at ncdoi.gov. And February 26th is the deadline. Is that correct?
Correct. There's also a public comment period that will be held in Raleigh that day in the Albemarle building. That's where the Department of Insurance is located from 10, I think, to 4:30 that day. Anybody that wants to show up in person to comment. It is usually pretty much a quiet, very boring day. I think the last public forum that was held, comment forum, I think about 6 people showed up. So if, encourage your local government officials to please go in person and let our voices be heard. Send an email. Please participate. My phrase now is show up or shut up. So you know what? We need to show up. We need to send an email. These rate increases impact the affordability of housing and the ability of one to maintain their mortgage. We recognize that we are more at risk than other parts of the state, but when our RIN rates are 10 times higher than they are elsewhere, right, we need to question that. So,
Willo, I'm looking forward to further conversations probably early next week, just to remind folks, if we don't do it possibly Friday, we'll worry about the timing on this. But I want to keep the the issue alive and heated. Thank you very much. And I do want to comment, our notices, our complaints, I shouldn't say our complaints, our inquiries in years past have had a positive influence on these issues, have they not?
Yes, they have. And because of our voice, there was legislation that passed that said a public comment forum had to be held. So, we have made some headway. There have been some changes that have been positive. So I would encourage everybody to please stay engaged and participate.
Willo Kelly with us this afternoon. Willo, I know you have another meeting. Thank you very much for being with us. I'll talk to you later, sir. Then appreciate that.
Thank you very much, Lockwood.
All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, that's Willo Kelly again, the Outer Banks Association Realtors Chief Executive Officer now, and we chatted with her on numerous occasions. The frustration I have, and I guess you're hearing it in my voice, ladies and gentlemen, is that this is an increase that, quite frankly, hasn't been fully fleshed out for the audience, for the public, for the community, for the taxpayers. And I would say to you, if you own a home, if you are investing in real estate, this should concern you greatly, because you're just seeing what is basically a minimum 30% increase in your insurance rates. And this is right on top of a most recent insurance increase, as she just shared with us a few moments ago, that went into effect October of this past year. So this is a big, big issue. And I will tell you that if we are now looking at more opportunities to, spend money, but also to be penalized for living in the coastal region. And, of course, the argument is many instances, particularly in wind events, the more damage is done inland than it is done on the coast. All right, we'll talk about that in the days ahead. The website, the email address for expressing your views, 2018 Homeowners, plural, please. That's 2018 Homeowners, all one word, plural, 2018 Homeowners at ncdoi.gov. North Carolina Department of Insurance.gov. As we prepare to go to the break, I just want to remind you about a company that understands the cost of living in our area and, of course, has been working diligently to provide outstanding service as well as quality products. I'll, of course, remind you about this often. Advanced Water Systems, the people that bring you Connecticut, folks that are practically reinventing water. As always, they are working diligently on outstanding lineup of products, Connecticut products, but also outstanding service. And their service has their level of service has resulted in them being asked to cover larger regions of the East Coast, now the single largest independent Connecticut dealer in the country because of service, and they're always quick to demur and say because of the quality product. That is the renowned product, Connecticut Water Softener, and a wide variety of reverse osmosis water purifiers and air purifiers. If you want to find out more, go online to KinneticoNC.com. That's KinneticoNC.com. KinneticoNC.com. That number locally, Old Cherry Point Road in New Bern, 635-6222. That's 635-6222. Home office and showroom, Highway 70 East between Newport and Morehead City. That's 223-4444. That's 223-4444. Joining us in a moment, Jenny Beth Martin, chairman of the Tea Party Patriot Citizen Fund, talking about the 10th anniversary of a famous TV event related to the issue of the Tea Party. Stay with us.